What is going on, everyone? We are back at the farm today and we are going to be doing some fall planting. Fall has arrived, or at least it feels like it. Sometimes they call it a false fall. I'm not sure if it's going to stick around or not, but nevertheless, I'll take it. 70 degrees just feels like a kiss from heaven right now. It just feels absolutely incredible to be out in the garden. But these cooler days and definitely cooler nights does mean, especially now that it's September, does mean that we got to start thinking about fall. So we're going to start thinking about some early maturing crops that we can still plant within our frost period, our frost-free days. So our growing season typically ends with that first frost around October 20th to October 25th, depending on the year. So knowing that, what we have to do is we have to count backwards and we have to see how many things we can plant, because we still want to be productive. We still want to plant the garden out. And so we basically gathered a list of all of the seeds that you can be planting right now in September. If you're watching this video early September, get these seeds, throw them in the ground so you can get a harvest before that first frost comes. Let's go. This first bed here, we're going to plant out with some of our fall and winter greens. Now, this bed previously had our zucchini in here. And while we're going to talk about fall and winter greens, the first crop that you can be planting that we're not going to plant here, because we already previously planted it here, is zucchini. Zucchini makes an amazing fall harvest. Now, dare I say, I prefer to grow zucchini in the fall. It has less pest pressure. It has cooler weather. Now, granted, you do sometimes compete with powdery mildew, but as long as you spray it with some type of fungicide, like a copper fungicide, you should be fine. And we often will get far more zucchinis in the fall months than we do in the spring and summer months. It's just, there's a lot of problems that we encounter with growing spring and summer zucchinis, but fall zucchini for us has always been amazing. So throw some zucchinis in the ground. We're not going to plant it right here because we are going to kind of rotate these crops. We had some squash bugs come in, and so because we don't want to just basically put squash where there's already squash bugs or a presence of them, we're going to move them away from there, throw them in the ground, and we should be growing. I mean, zucchini takes 40 to 45 days to mature, you guys. When you're looking at some of your summer crops like tomatoes, you're looking at 65, 70 days, and you're probably thinking, man, summer crop, warm weather crop, zucchini seems kind of difficult. 45, maybe 50 days tops, and you're getting zucchini, and you can harvest them at any size, small or large, it doesn't matter. So throw some zucchini in the ground. I guarantee you, you're gonna love it. Next crop we're planting is lettuce. Now, we rely so heavily on fall lettuce because in the springtime, it often will go from 30, 40 degrees to 70, 80 degrees almost overnight. Now, we're densely seeding these lettuce here. This is crisp mint romaine. We also have here some ruby red leaf. We also have some Cimarron lettuce. And those are awesome lettuces to grow because they just, the red, so crisp mint is just slow to bolt. If it happens to get warm, we don't have as much of a risk of it going to seed. Crisp mint is just less likely to go to seed. But then all your red lettuces, your ruby red, your Cimarron, your red romaine, any of those, your Lola rosas, those all are they're very heat tolerant lettuces. As long as it stays like 70, 75 degrees, they will do great in that. No problem at all, especially if the nights stay cool. We're densely sowing them so that we can do cut and come again leaf lettuce. That's our favorite style of growing lettuce. And so those are going in. Next crop that you can grow that I highly recommend is endive. Endive can get a little bit bitter when it gets hot, so it's usually a very early spring crop, or it's a very quick grow and get it out of the ground as an immature endive plant. Endive in the fall for us gets way less bitter, way less quick, and it is personally one of my all-time favorite leafy greens to grow right now. Next leafy green that we're gonna throw in the ground here, I already said it, mustard greens. I love growing mustard greens in the fall because mustard greens just get super peppery and hot during the summer, and it's just something that I love to grow, but I don't like it when they get really spicy. Love growing some mustard greens. That's gonna round off the rest of this bed here. A lot more to plant. Up next are beans. Now, beans can make an absolutely phenomenal fall crop. We have this bed of beans right here. We are doing a seed saving project, so we're not going to pull these out just yet. I want to let just a little bit more moisture leave these pods before we replant more beans. Now, beans are great because they only take about 50 to 55 days to mature. And when you're looking at the fact that It's early September. We have all of September and all of October. There's a really good chance that we're gonna be getting some beans. So we throw beans in. Again, if they don't even produce, they're a cover crop. That's how I look at it, because they fix nitrogen into the soil. It's just a phenomenal kind of a rotational crop, and there's really very little risk. Up next, we're gonna plant out another bed right here. We have all this open space. We have cucumbers on the edges. We just planted these about 3 weeks ago, and so they are starting to spill over the edges, but cucumbers can be a phenomenal crop to grow in the fall. In fact, we're probably, once we pull out some potatoes or something like that, we have a little more bed space, we're probably gonna plant another harvest of cucumbers, because they only take about 55 to 60 days, and you can eat them at quite literally any stage. We have this open space, which then gives us a blank canvas to plant some cabbage and broccoli. So we have here some pak choi white stem. This is my all-time favorite cabbage variety to grow in the fall. It is so incredibly sweet and tender, moisture rich. It is just an absolute crowd favorite. So we're gonna throw some of that in. But then we also have some broccoli, and we have some Copenhagen cabbage. Now the thing I love about growing this pak choi cabbage is that the pak choi cabbage takes much less time to mature. We're talking about 45 to 55 days, maybe 60 on the high end, but you can harvest it at any stage. So even if it's small like this, harvest it for baby pak choi. A little more challenging, a little more time, but it is pretty cold tolerant. Cabbage. I absolutely love the Copenhagen market because it's only about 60 to 65 days to mature. It's gonna handle some cold weather. So will we get a harvest? Again, it's kind of one of those high risk, high reward crops. If you live somewhere further south or you have a little bit longer growing season, you absolutely can throw cabbage in the ground. I'm gonna sow a grouping of 3 seeds, about 8 to 10 inches apart, just like that. And that way, when they come up, we're gonna thin it to the healthiest one plant, let those grow up, and we're gonna have some beautiful cabbage growing up. And the idea here is that we want them to fill in this open space so we don't degrade the soil, we don't get weed pressure, we don't get weed seeds, and also it's going to help cover the soil, that if it does get warm, it helps keep the soil nice and protected so it holds moisture in the soil and keeps it nice and cool. Check out this intercropping. Look at this. This includes so many different crops that you can sow in early September. We have here the cucumbers. These ones are more of a vining type. We planted these about 2-3 weeks ago, or about 3 weeks ago, and they are already starting to kind of vine. We have in between them carrots. Now the carrots are growing up and the vines are kind of just finding their way out. I absolutely love doing this because this just kind of shows that it doesn't always have to be conventional. You know, these vines here are kind of finding the rows. They're staying low to the ground and growing out to the edges of the raised bed. The carrots are growing up, and the carrots are a wonderful crop to grow. So we already talked about cucumbers, but carrots are another wonderful variety. This variety is tender sweet. So we threw some tender sweet seeds in. We could probably follow up with another succession of tender sweet or any other type of carrot, some Danvers carrot, some rainbow carrot. Throw some carrots in the ground. They are so amazing to grow in the late season because it is cooler, the soil is a little more damp, and carrot seeds love cool, damp soil to germinate well in. We got some cucumbers and we have some dill. You can throw dill in the ground as well. This was planted quite a while ago. This was planted about 4 or 5 weeks ago. It grows so fast. I can't think of a better fall crop to grow than dill, because oftentimes I don't like it when it goes to seed. I don't want it to go to seed, and the cool weather will help it to go to seed a lot slower, giving you more time to harvest the beautiful fronds. The next crop we're gonna be sowing that you can absolutely sow in September, but sometimes you might even wanna wait until like early October to sow this, radishes. Radishes can be a phenomenal crop to grow. Now, in the past, we have sown radish seed typically like mid to late September, early October, because it only takes 25, 35 days to fully mature. And it's cold tolerant, so even if it gets a frost, it does just fine. However, in the past, we have had typically a little bit more warm weather. Cold weather has came into Michigan pretty quickly, in fact. This is not very seasonal to be wearing pants, and you could, in theory, be wearing a sweatshirt right now, and no one would look at you weird. I mean, it's about 65 degrees today. So I am gonna put some radish seed in the ground early in case we have an early winter. Again, I'm preparing for anything, and that's what I recommend you do as well, is prepare for anything. Prepare for a season that could be longer by growing those fringe crops like zucchini and cucumbers. maybe some broccoli or cabbage. Those fringe crops where if you happen to get an extension on your season, just you get lucky and you get 5 or 10 extra growing season days out of, frost-free days out of your growing season, there you go. You don't have a crystal ball, you don't know. So throw those in just in case, but also I wanna plan for the reverse, right? I wanna plan for the opposite to happen. What happens if we get an early frost, right? What happens if winter comes early? Well, in that case, I wanna get some radishes in the ground. If the weather stays this cold, radishes are gonna do just fine in 60, 65 degree weather with 45, 50 degree nights. And I'm not gonna plant a ton of them because I will typically plant in succession. I don't want all my radishes to come up at once. So I'm gonna plant out just 1 row of this sparkler white tip. I'll plant several more rows out over the coming weeks, absolutely. But I'm also gonna plant out 1 row of French breakfast. Again, I'm only planting 1 row of each right now. So that's 20 to 30 radishes in not that much space. So it's totally fine to only plant out a couple rows at a time, because then in a week or two, I'm gonna follow up and I'm gonna plant 1 or 2 more rows. I'm gonna follow up again, plant 1 or 2 more rows, maybe in different parts of the garden. And that's going to give us a continued harvest. So if we have an early winter, a normal growing season, or an extended growing season, we have backups, we have options to look at for harvest. So that is the radishes. All radishes you can plant right now, by the way. Just those are 2 of my favorites. But the final 2 that I've got here today are kale and peas. Now we're gonna plant kale over here. We're gonna plant kale in this area. Kale is an awesome crop to grow because oftentimes I find kale will last not even through the fall into winter, but a lot of times, depending on the variety, will often last through winter, even into spring. And the thing about your brassicas, regardless of the type, is it will experience cold weather at some point, whether that's in the early spring or the fall. But when it does, and it gets exposed to cold weather, it will get sweeter. So we're gonna throw some kale in, and then the final crop that we're gonna plant are peas. Now, we're not gonna plant peas in this bed because it's a little too crowded. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait for my tomatillos to finish up. They're just about done. I'm gonna plant peas in about 2 or 3 days. So by the time you see this video, the tomatillos will be pulled out. I'm just waiting on the last few to ripen up. Those will get pulled out. I'm gonna plant peas in their place. And the reason why I don't wanna plant them here is because peas, they tend to sprawl, they tend to get large, they need some trellising. So I'm gonna put them with some nylon trellis netting over where the tomatillos are, and that way they can grow up something to kind of climb. And those are all the crops that we're growing right now in September that you can also grow. Now I know there's a crop that I'm not mentioning right now that you're probably banging your keyboard or you're shaking your phone saying, oh, I thought he was supposed to mention this one crop and he didn't mention it. Why? And that would be garlic. Why didn't I mention garlic? And that's because garlic is not ready to be planted yet. You do not want to plant garlic too early. I have always said that you want to wait about 30 to 35 days before your first frost to planting garlic. I find anywhere from, for us, don't copy this because you have to go based on your calendar. For us, right here, I typically will put garlic in the ground about September 20th all the way up to about October 3rd. That window, the 20th of September to the 3rd of October, is my window to plant garlic. That's my window. It should not be your window unless you are right here in this physical location. If so, get off my land, please. I'm joking. All jokes aside, garlic is planted a little bit later. So wait on that. You do want to wait. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. If you did, make sure to hit that big old like button and make it turn green for us. Help spread this video around to more people. And also, I really do hope that if you have not yet subscribed, you will do so. Just because we're planting out the fall garden does not mean you're not going to learn something year round. And we have tons more gardening content coming out. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you all learned something new. Get your fall garden planted. Go check out migardener.com for some amazing deals on seeds. Get yourself some garlic as well. And we'll catch you all on the next episode. Grow bigger. Take care. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider clicking this one. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you for your viewership because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. Also, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. It's free and we upload videos every Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. We also have vegetable seeds, fertilizer, or tools. If you need any of those, consider visiting migardener.com. Links will be in the description box below. We've got you covered. And as always, we'll see you all in the garden. Take care.